Hello everyone. Today I have a pretty cool piece. This is a Sean Kendrick runer, and it's got his leaf blade. In the runer model, Sean makes a couple of blade types, but this particular one is my one of my favorite types, which is the leaf blade. I've actually been very curious about Sean's work for a while because from what I've seen, his work, it looks like it's like a frame lock, you know, and there's just seems like there's not much complexity that goes into it. But upon closer inspection, you really know that he spends a lot of time in his knives, which makes it very special. So just as a background, what really got me interested is that Sean has some of the very most hardcore collectors out there who really love his knives. And I haven't seen too much of this, but actually, I've known a couple of collectors who stopped collecting, but they managed to keep one Sean Kendrick or even two Sean Kendrick knives. So I was thinking, why is it that these collectors, which have really big names from other makers, why do these people decide to keep a Sean Kendrick, as their last knife, or as their only knife in the collection to carry, to use, to admire, that sort of thing. So, and recently one of my other good buddy of mine said that, by far he thinks that Sean's work, in terms of the handmade knife industry, is his favorite. So I thought, what, I think it's time for me to grab one. I've heard mixed reviews. Some people say that Sean Kendrick's knives is similar to David Mosher's knives. If you don't know, David Mosher also makes designs that are similar, and it's not by accident. And historically, I think Sean has been making fixed blades, and he's been making knives for a while. And he went full time in 2007. Sean really, he didn't know how to do a folding knife until he met David Mosher. And David really taught him all the basics of the mechanics of the folding knife, and how basically helping him with all the basics to get Sean started. And then from there, Sean designed his own knives, but you can definitely see the similarities between the two. I've actually owned two David Moshers beforehand, and then I'll talk a little bit about the comparison between the two. But first, let's get into this particular piece. So what we have here is, in terms of the blade, this is a 3V blade. Very interesting. I normally don't buy knives which have steels which aren't fully stainless steels. But according to Sean and his podcast, when he uses the knives, he just loves 3V because it's a super tough steel. It's easy to strap the edge back to life. So it works really well as a user. The way Sean grinds this leaf blade is pretty cool. I really love how the shape, it's like a nice drop point. It's got a really user-friendly blade. There's a very, very nice long ramp, which makes it extremely comfortable to hold on to. Pretty effective jimping, quite wide. And the blade itself has an acid wash blade with I think it's electro acid etch. It's the same way that Sean does the logos, which is actually quite detailed. If you see, there's the K and there's like the little spike coming out of each side, two spikes on each corner, which I think is really cool. He decided to keep the grind lines, although in the flats it's, he got rid of the grind lines, and it's a really cool user finish. To be honest, I'm not much of a fan of grind lines or acid wash blades, but on this particular one, I don't know, somehow it's actually, very attractive. So that is the blade. The sharpness of the blade itself, it's sharp, but not hair shaving sharp, which I think, knives like 3B probably won't keep a hair shaving sharp edge for too long, but it's more tough. So in terms of the actual cutting ability, when you use it, it'll last pretty long, and it won't chip very easily as well. So I think that's pretty good to go. I don't have this knife long enough to be able to tell you how good it is, but in terms of the cutting performance. So in terms of the handle, this is a Circuitai handle, very beautifully colored actually. The color is quite even, a little bit more purple here than up front, but it's very vibrant, very well done. And on the back side, you got the same material for the clip, and this is a very nice, I don't want to say orange peel, but it's kind of like orange peel, but not really. I don't think I've seen this finish on any other knives. It's not perfectly, it's smooth to the touch, but it's also very grippy. I've seen knives with orange peel that's very gritty, and Sean says that, the finishes that he puts on his knives, he hasn't seen on any other knives. And I agree. Actually, when I first got this, I had similar types of orange peel or similar looks, but those can get really slippery. But this one, wow, it locks onto your hand. Normally when your hand is super dry, it can slip out of your hand. The knife can slip out of your hand or feel slippery, but this is always very grippy. And the finish makes it virtually, like really difficult to scratch. So no matter how much you carry it, it won't really show any marks. So that's what I really love about the finish. And it's, I think, one of the reasons why collectors who really love his knives carry his knives and really enjoy it for what it is. Sean makes the knives to be carried, and it'll look good for a super long time. It doesn't discolor, and I think, it always looks good. It's really tough. It just works. All the way around, it just works. The thumb stud itself is zirconium with the same texture. Same with the pivot, it's also zirconium. Very nicely done. The knife is nicely contoured on all sides, and the pocket clip, I believe this is carbon fiber. Very nice. So, after seeing this, what makes it so special? To me, I think it just works. For someone who's looking for a nice, good-looking knife, it's a great user because the ergonomics is very nice. Fits in your hand well, easy to cut, the edge is great, and the action, it just works. It doesn't hurt your thumb. When you do the lock release, it's very smooth. Listen to that. You can slow open it, and when you close it, it's got a really nice lockup sound. it just works. Like you don't have to worry about it going wrong, and it's a beautiful piece. It feels very nice and contoured onto the hand. The thumb stud, because there is space from the frame, easy to flick from the right hand side. Also easy to flick from the left hand side. So, I mean, for me, it's just like a very, very lovely carry knife, especially for those of you who collect higher end knives. But a lot of the higher end knives, you're afraid that you're going to scratch it, you're going to mar it. This one, you feel like you're obligated to carry it. And it just, like, everything just works. There's no lock stick. The pocket clip works extremely well. It's got a reasonable, deep, not deep carry, but almost deep carry clip, which will appease anyone. It will stay centered, if the lighting permits. Yeah, I mean, overall, it's such a great knife. And now, coming back to the comparison with David Mosier, I've actually had David's Imminent Menace and his Horror Business. So two models from David, both of them quite dressed up, and it's one of his top spec builds. And how does David's work compare to Sean's work? And if you own something from David, would is it worth it to try and find a Sean Kendrick? Because these tend to be a little bit more expensive because of the rarity, and yeah, it's a little bit more difficult to get one of Sean's knives as of the posting of this video, and even before that, it's still a bit more difficult. For me, I feel like, without any bias, I can say that I think Sean's knives are it's more well tuned. It's more, so just to give you an example, on David's knives, sometimes I do have, so at least on those two models, the lock release is not as comfortable. It's more boxy, but this one is, you can feel that there's a lot more handwork, so it's very soft to the touch. The sound of it on the closing and the lockup, this sound is, it's gold. I love it. The action for me, again, Sean wins because the ergonomics of flipping the knife itself is much easier for some reason. And when you use it, the same thing. Ergonomics is better. And I don't know, it just feels overall more well-tuned, more well-finished. I think in one of, it might just be that one piece, but like, for example, the clip was too tight, so you had to kind of loosen it up. Or another thing was the pivot came a little bit loose, and like when you go to close the knife, sometimes it's like drop shot, which can get a little bit scary. But for me, this one, I mean, it's just like perfect. It's not drop shot, but it's super smooth, very safe. It just works. So now I really see the appeal of Sean's knives, because it is a very, very well handmade knife. He spends a lot of time chamfering, contouring, everything, so it is comfortable. It never goes off center. The pocket clip works really well. So yeah, I mean, I hope that kind of explains why people really love Sean's knives. I definitely see the appeal, and And you know, Sean as a maker, when I reached out to him and talked about the knives, he was very fast to get back to me, and you know, he encouraged me to carry it, to enjoy it. He's a really cool guy. So yeah, there's that. I hope you enjoyed the video. Stay tuned for the next one. See you. Thank you for watching.